Welcome to your personalized news briefing. Hot off the presses, all assembled for you. We're diving deep today into national and international news, but we're also going to make a special stop in Ashburn, VA.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, we're cutting through all that noise and hype to bring you the most important stuff.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people are saying they just don't trust the media as much as they used to,
Right.
especially the younger generations. There's some interesting data from Pew Research on that.
So how are we going to fix that? I mean, obviously, we still got to stay informed, right? The
Those-
world didn't get any simpler. So where are people turning? Are we just all doomed to scroll through our phones forever and just hope for the best?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people are getting much more proactive about how they get their news these days.
Okay.
They're curating their own feeds, pulling from a wider range of sources. I bet you do this yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have my go-to websites, my podcasts.
Right.
I even pay for a couple of online newspaper subscriptions now.
There you go. And that's a trend we're seeing more and more.
Mhm.
The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Washington Post,
Yeah.
they've all seen this huge growth in digital subscriptions.
Yeah.
People are willing to pay for good quality journalism, even if it's not on paper anymore.
That's true. But isn't there a danger in all that, self-curating? I've heard this term echo chamber, right?
Right.
Where we only see news we already agree with.
Right.
Doesn't that make us less informed overall?
That's the paradox, right?
Yeah.
Because it is empowering to have control over what we're seeing, but it can also reinforce our biases.
Right.
And there's actually a lot of research from YouGov that shows how big the divide is between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to where they get their news.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Democrats, for instance, they lean towards PBS, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, while Republicans are more likely to favor Fox News, Fox Business, and Newsmax.
Wow.
So this whole polarization thing, it's a real challenge.
Okay, so if we can't always trust those big media giants and personalized news can lead to echo chambers, where do we go to find information that's reliable and unbiased?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the answers might surprise you. Even though trust in those big traditional media outlets is going down, public broadcasting, particularly PBS and NPR,
Okay.
they consistently rank among the most trusted sources out there.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, their funding model is different. You see, they're mostly supported by member contributions and corporate sponsorships. So they have a degree of independence that some of those other outlets maybe don't.
Okay.
They're really committed to in-depth reporting, different perspectives,
Yeah.
and that resonates with people who are looking for a more balanced viewpoint.
It's a good reminder that in this world of instant information,
Right.
good reporting still matters,
It does. And it's not just PBS and NPR either. Get this. YouGov found that the Weather Channel actually ranks higher in trust than both Fox News and CNN.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
The Weather Channel?
The Weather Channel.
Why?
Well, think about it. When it comes to weather, there's not a lot of room for opinions,
Yeah.
right? It's about facts.
Right.
And people want news sources that prioritize facts over spin. So maybe that's part of it.
So it's not just about the news itself.
Right.
It's also about who is delivering it.
Exactly. We're all becoming more careful about where we get our news from. We're looking at the motives, the funding, and we're actively looking for different viewpoints.
I like that.
Yeah,
It feels like we're becoming more discerning,
absolutely. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It means we're thinking more critically, and we're really looking for more balanced and informative news.
I like it. Okay, so we've been talking about, the national news scene, but what about the rest of the world?
Right.
International news can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, Where do you even start?
It can feel like a lot, yeah. But I think it's helpful to remember it's kind of like national news, but on a bigger scale. The same principles apply. Finding sources you trust, seeking out different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's like if you only ever read one book,
Right.
you only get one side of the story, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've got some thoughts on where to find those diverse international news sources.
I do. One place to start is Al Jazeera English. They're based in Qatar.
Oh, okay.
They offer a different lens on things, a lot of focus on the Middle East and North Africa.
I have heard of Al Jazeera. Isn't there some controversy around it there?
There is, yeah. Some people say they have a certain slant, and it's true that every news source has their own perspective. But that's exactly why it's so important to use multiple sources.
Yeah.
You compare, you contrast, you think about what you're reading, and you end up with a better informed opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's about being an active participant. I like that.
Exactly.
Not just, passively taking everything in.
Right.
So what other sources do you recommend internationally?
Well, for a more traditional, impartial approach, you've got the BBC.
Right.
They have their main news and also a dedicated BBC Middle East branch.
Yep. Right.
Then, if you're looking for a European perspective, there's Der Spiegel. That's a German news magazine, and they've got a good English edition.
Oh, cool.
And then, for something a little different, The Telegraph, it's British, and it leans a bit more conservative.
Oh, okay.
So that gives you a bit of a range, right?
That's a good mix. Is that it, or are there even more?
Oh, there are always more. Like I said, you can never have too many sources. BBC, CNN, International,
Right.
Euronews, France 24. Those are all good, too.
Wow. That's quite a list.
Oh.
Okay. Let's bring things a little closer to home for now. For our local news, we're going to dive into Ashburn, Virginia today.
Ooh, Ashburn. Excellent choice.
Yeah.
It really is a microcosm of all the things we've been talking about, where change, growth, challenges.
Yeah, it looks like it's been quite a week there. Both tragedy and triumph, kind of a mix.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with the heavy stuff?
Yeah, we should. I think it's important to
Yeah.
acknowledge, the hard things that have happened in the community.
Yeah.
That plane crash at Reagan National on January 25th,
Oh, yeah.
it really had a devastating impact.
Yeah. It's so sad to hear about that skating coach and the family from Ashburn who are on board. I can't imagine what they're going through.
It's an incredible loss,
Yeah.
but it's also been really powerful to see how the communities come together. The Burn, the local news source, has been reporting on all these fundraisers,
Yeah.
memorials, people coming together to support the families.
That's really good to hear. In the face of something like that, it's nice to see people being good to each other.
Yeah.
But Ashburn isn't all tragedy, right? It's also growing and changing all the time.
That's right. I was reading about the new Avonmore luxury home community.
Oh, yeah?
It was in the Northern Virginia magazine.
Yeah.
It seems like Ashburn's attracting new people,
Yeah.
new investment,
Yeah.
really evolving.
It's fascinating how a community can experience these totally different things. Like, at the same time,
Right.
on the one hand, there's the sadness of the plane crash. And then on the other hand, there's all this excitement about new things happening.
Right.
And speaking of new things, I hear Ashburn's food scene is about to get even better.
Oh, is it ever? Northern Virginia magazine was talking about a whole bunch of new grocery stores and restaurants coming in.
Mm-hmm.
6 new grocery stores in Northern Virginia alone. Can you believe that?
That's a lot.
More options? More convenience?
Okay, what about restaurants? Anything exciting on that front?
Well, there's a new Korean barbecue spot opening up, which should be good.
Ooh, I like Korean barbecue.
Yeah. And if you're into sandwiches, there's a new place that's supposed to have some really creative sandwiches.
Okay.
But honestly, the one I'm most curious about is this dessert shop in Chantilly. Apparently, they're known for their soft serve and these things called dirty sodas. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds interesting.
I'm intrigued.
Right.
Okay, before we get too hungry, we should probably circle back to some of the other news coming out of Ashburn.
You're right. You're right. It's important to celebrate the good stuff, but we can't ignore the harder stuff either.
Yeah.
Northern Virginia magazine also covered the Anthony Robinson case, the shopping cart killer.
Yeah.
That one was really disturbing. It shook everyone up. He was recently convicted of murder and given 4 life sentences.
Wow. It's a reminder that you never really know, do you?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
But even with that, there's still so much life and energy in Ashburn. There's a really vibrant arts and entertainment scene there.
Yeah, like life goes on.
It does. And Ashburn Magazine has been doing a good job of showcasing all that the town's history, the people, all the cultural things going on.
I love local history. What kind of stuff has Ashburn Magazine been highlighting?
Oh, well, one that really stuck with me was this story about an Ashburn man who was actually a really important figure in the civil rights movement. It makes you realize that history is everywhere,
Yeah.
even in places you might not expect. And sometimes the most ordinary people can end up doing extraordinary things.
I like that. Okay, what else?
They also had a really interesting article about how they built the railroad through Ashburn back in the day. Apparently it was really difficult because of the weather and the terrain. It was a huge undertaking.
Wow.
It makes you appreciate how much things have changed, right?
Right. It shows that progress isn't always easy, but sometimes it's worth it. And speaking of progress, what about that Buyer Family fundraiser? That seems to be doing really well.
Oh, yeah. Ashburn Magazine's been covering that, too.
Yeah.
Really shows you the spirit of the community.
Yeah.
People coming together to support each other.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in Ashburn, from the very serious to the more uplifting.
Yeah.
But now I think it's time for our rapid fire round. Business, technology, entertainment, sports, and health. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Okay, so let's kick things off with business.
Okay.
What's happening in the business world?
Well, we don't have any specific stories for you
Oh,
today, but it's always important to stay informed about business trends,
right.
especially because things change so fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Our sources actually recommended a few good places to check out.
Right.
Bloomberg Business Week for some in-depth stuff, Harvard Business Review if you're into strategy and all that, and The Economist for kind of a global overview.
Those are good suggestions.
Yeah, and of course there are the classics too, like
Right.
Forbes, CNBC for market news and company stuff.
Makes sense. Okay, how about we switch gears and talk about tech?
Sure.
It seems like every day there's something new.
I know, it's crazy.
What's caught your eye lately?
Well, one thing that's becoming impossible to ignore is cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just for big companies anymore.
Mm.
It's something we all have to think about.
It really is. It feels like every other day there's a story about a data breach or some new scam.
Right.
It makes you want to just unplug.
I know, but instead of doing that, we can take steps to protect ourselves.
Yeah, true.
And it's interesting to see how tech companies are responding.
Okay.
They're investing a lot in things like encryption and threat detection, trying to keep our data safe.
That's good to hear. But it sounds like we have to do our part too, right?
Definitely.
What are some things we can do on a personal level?
Strong passwords are super important, and two-factor authentication is becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
But it's also about being smart, like what you click on, who you
Mhm.
talk to online,
Okay.
and being suspicious of anything that seems too good to be true.
It's a minefield out there.
It is. You got to be careful. But okay, enough of the serious stuff. Let's move on to entertainment. What's the latest?
Yeah, let's lighten things up a bit.
Well, Asa Rabaraki's Supreme Court trial is getting a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big case. Could have some interesting legal and entertainment implications.
Oh, okay. I'll have to follow that. And of course, there's always political commentary, especially after that D.C. air disaster.
Right.
Trump's comments about it have caused some controversy.
Yeah, it just shows how social media can shape the conversation.
It gives everyone a voice, but it also makes it hard to know what's real and what's not.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
have to be careful about what we believe.
Absolutely. All right, switching gears again. Time for some sports.
Let's do it.
What are you excited about?
Honestly, I'm loving the rise of women's sports.
Oh, yeah, me too.
The viewership is growing, more media coverage, more investment in female athletes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's so great to see these women getting the recognition they deserve.
Right.
What about the men's side? Anything interesting happening there?
Well, the NBA All-Star Game is trying a new format this year.
Hmm.
Should be interesting.
I'll have to watch that. Okay, last but not least, health. Any news our listeners should know about?
There's a study out about cannabis and brain performance.
Oh, really?
Whether you use it or not, it's worth a read.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, there's always something new to learn about cannabis.
Oh,
Also, Medicaid is under review right now.
okay.
It could have a big impact on healthcare access for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's something we all need to pay attention to. But is there any good news on the health front? I could use a dose of positivity right now.
Actually, there is.
Okay, tell me.
Turns out there's a connection between flossing and heart health.
Really?
Yeah, taking care of your gums can actually help your heart.
So all those years of my dentist telling me to floss.
They were.
Right?
Wow, that's amazing.
Right. It's the little things sometimes.
I'm going to go buy some floss right now.
Good idea. Well, that was a lot.
Yeah, we covered a ton of ground today.
We did.
From the changing media landscape to tech, entertainment, sports, even local news in Ashburn, Virginia.
It's been a fascinating look at what's happening in the world.
So as we wrap things up, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? What should they remember?
I think the most important thing is to be proactive about the information you consume.
Okay.
Don't just take things at face value, question your sources, look for different perspectives, be a little skeptical.
I like that. Be informed, be empowered,
Exactly.
and be ready to have those conversations about the things that matter.
That's what it's all about, and never stop being curious.
Yeah.
The world is full of interesting stuff to learn. Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the news.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay engaged.